Okay. Welcome to Crime by the Bar.
Welcome. I'm Jonatan.
I'm Anna. It's a very, very happy Friday.
It is a happy, giggly Friday. We're in quite high spirits, and we've been talking, and there's a lot more talking to come, because we have mysteries.
Yeah, it is that mysterious time of the week, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
right before the weekend.
Yeah, it's very warm.
It is so warm.
We're giddy on the heat, perhaps.
I'm not sure if giddy's the right word for me. Definitely for you. You're just glowing.
Oh, it is. It does. It feels good. Oh, yeah. The warmth suits me very much. Okay, we should get stuck in.
Yes, I think so.
Oh dear.
Friday mysteries.
Friday mysteries.
Let's do this. Who is worst?
I have no idea.
Oh, of course not. You. I
This
almost
week
said for once, but you don't know what I'm doing this week.
No.
And I've actually told you the name of the case even.
What was the name?
Okay, it's the green bicycle case.
I don't think I've heard of this at all.
From the sounds of it, when I found it, I kind of dismissed it at first because I thought it was way bigger.
Yeah.
But hey, if you don't know it, maybe not. I hadn't heard of it before, but
It's
hey.
not the thing that happened in France with the family?
No.
No, then no.
Okay.
Is it bad? Are you going first?
It's actually not that bad. There is a death.
There's a death in mine.
Is it gruesome? Is it horrifying?
Do you want to rock, paper, scissors to see who goes first this
Oh,
week?
yes, I can love this.
Okay, you ready?
Wait, are we doing just
So
once?
we go 1, 2, 3, and then you do it. So
Okay.
it's like on 4,
Yeah.
except no one says 4.
Perfect.
Hold on, I need to get into your mind. Okay.
2, 3, pow.
Fuck.
What does that mean, though?
You won.
I won, but what does it
I
does
guess
that
it
mean
means
I
you
go
can
first,
pick.
or
I guess it means you can pick. Because we didn't work this out.
okay? I say you go first because evening the scales and everything.
Okay. That works for me. Okay. Do you know what I'm
Mystery.
doing this week?
I have no clue.
I mean, you
And
heard
I'm
me
curious.
listening to videos in Italian earlier.
Was that Italian?
Oh, you didn't recognize Italian. Okay. That makes me feel so much better about my faux pas a few weeks ago on the
I
whole.
barely heard. I think my subconscious kind of just assumed that it would be something more Eastern, but
No, stops at Italy.
well, this is Italy. I have no idea what you're doing. So, am I getting a clue in the form of a question?
No, you're just getting smiles and looks. That's all
Okay,
that's
fair
happening. I am talking about Ottavio. Okay, no. Ottavio Bottecchia.
Mm-hmm.
Ringing any bells?
Not really. No.
Okay. He was born on the 1st of August, 1894. So a really long time ago.
That is well over a century. Man.
Yeah, isn't it? It is. So I'm taking you back to Italy. Ottavio, he came from like a pretty big family, 9 kids. I think 9 kids. I didn't write any of this down.
So 8 siblings-ish.
Yes.
Okay.
And they didn't have much money, so he only attended school for 1 year, and he was illiterate. And I'm going to fast forward to the war. So 1914, Ottavio is 20. And even though he's a strong socialist, very anti-fascist, he ends up signing up for the Italian army.
Okay.
Yes. So throughout World War I, he ends up joining this unit, whose name I didn't write down. And it was a high mobility light infantry unit. And basically his job was to ferry messages and supplies on a folding bicycle to the front line.
So we're talking like trench postman?
Pretty much.
Oh.
Yeah. He also, he did supplies as well as messages. But yeah, pretty much trench postman on a folding bicycle. Like you'd think
pretty hardcore.
Yeah, and he was captured in 1917, I think.
Okay.
But he managed to escape. So, he had a pretty good run of it being in the army. Like he served for the entire war, and he was even awarded a bronze medal for military valor. So, yeah, he did all right.
Well, that's understandable.
After the war, so in 1919 it was actually, he moved to France and worked as a builder. By this point, he already had a wife and 3 kids. So, yeah, moved to France for work, stayed there. He was a bit of a culture, if you know what that means. That's what we call it in Ireland. It's
what? Say it again,
he's
please?
like a country person, so he's a really strong Italian accent, but
Okay.
a dialecty.
Okay.
It's a culture accent.
Culture.
Culture. I don't know. That's what we call it.
No, I just want to learn the term because I haven't heard it.
I don't know if I should be calling an Italian a culture because it's like Irish countryside person, but he's a countryside person and has a super strong accent, so he kind of gets the piss taken out of him a bit. But, you know, fine, whatever. He doesn't have an easy time of it, though, and he doesn't earn a lot of money, so again, they kind of struggle to stay afloat, and one of their kids dies at the age of 7, which is pretty sad. I mean, it's not completely shocking in the early 1900s, but it's, yeah. They didn't have a lot of money, and they were given a bit of a hard time in Italy, and by the time he was 27, he decided to move back to Italy, and apparently decided to become a professional cyclist, as you do.
How?
I don't know. I feel like it would be very much like coming home and saying, hi, I want to be Justin Bieber or something. It's like, first of all, why? And second of all, is that realistic? Like, it's... I don't know.
Well, he has experience in backing in the professional biking environment, I guess.
No, he's professional. He's a builder who ferried messages around during the war. Like, I mean, okay, you did a good job, mate. Here's your medal. But seriously? Like, it seemed like a massive stretch. But yeah, 27, going back to Italy, wanted to become a professional cyclist. So he ended up starting to enter regional races. This was 1920, 1921. And then in 1923, he did well in the regional races, by the way. He actually did win a few. But yeah, at the time, the Belgians were the best cyclists in the world. So it's like, I mean, it's good, but I mean, calm down, mate. And by 1923, he entered the Giro d'Italia, so the Tour of Italy, like their answer to the Tour de France. It runs in May every year, and this year it's actually currently running. It's running from the 4th of May to the 27th of May.
Oh,
yeah.
Timely.
It's really funny. I've gone from knowing basically zero about cycling to knowing way more. Well, way more. Actually, I went to school with someone who's in the Commonwealth doing cycling. Oh. Yeah, and she's actually the nicest human being. Like we weren't close or anything at school, but she's one of those people. She's only been training for 4 years, and she's actually in the Commonwealth, and she's just great.
You really made it sound like I was going to hold the bicycling against her. Like, no, she's actually really nice.
I'm just sorry. I'm running a list of all the bitches I went to school with in my head, and okay. That's what it is. Like bitches and assholes everywhere. But. No, she's one of those lovely human beings. Like, even if you wanted to, there's nothing you can say against her. Just, she's wonderful. So it's super cool that she's picked up cycling professionally, and she's actually, in the space of 4 years, started doing this. It's pretty incredible. Anyway, so Ottavio enters the 1923 Giro d'Italia. Bum 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 bum. Drum roll. And places 11th, which is actually a really big deal. It's the highest placement of any cyclist without a team.
Okay.
And it is a big race. Like, aside from the Tour de France, it's like the biggest cycling race there really is then.
That's quite cool.
Yeah. And like, he's only been doing it for a couple of years, so it's pretty badass. Because of where he finished, he did attract some attention. And there was one guy in particular that really took an interest. You may have heard of him if you're into cycling. His name was Henry Pellissier. He was a French rider. He, at the time, was on a French professional team known as Automoto Hutchinson. Automoto was a French motorcycle company, but they also sold their crap in Italy. But yeah, Henri was super excited by this guy and was looking for a new teammate, so convinced the team to take him on.
Oh.
And Automoto Hutchinson, the team, were really keen on him because having an Italian rider, they thought they might it might help give the products a boost in Italy. And yeah, so it was looking pretty positive. So this leads to Ottavio to move back to France again with his wife and kids. I already told you earlier he couldn't read or write even in Italian, but he also spoke pretty much no French, and all of a sudden he's on a French team and really having to interact with people rather than just, being a builder over there, which allowed him to be kind of, a little bit more detached. But moved to France again and started that year. He entered the Tour de France. So Tour de France is held in July of each year, and the Giro d'Italia is May of each year. So he was only in the team a couple of months whenever he entered his first one. And he came second. And this is... I know. Yeah. And the guy who won, his teammate Henri. So Ottavio finished a full half hour behind him, which isn't great, but I mean, all things considered, it's still pretty badass.
Yeah.
And for years before, it had been the Belgians who'd been winning these races. So it was the first time in many, many years that a French person had won the Tour de France, and to have an Italian come second was quite, shocking.
And technically, I mean, if they're teammates, it's both of them winning. So
yeah, so I mean, it's all around great. Just because I didn't know anything about the Tour de France, not really, other than, hey, why is this interrupting summer TV? And why are they wiggling so much? But Tour de France is the one where you have the guy in the yellow jersey that's leading it. So they have the magical jersey that you put on and go, yo, I'm doing well. So it's a yellow one for Tour de France and it's a pink one for Giro d'Italia. So the one guy who's leading the stage gets to wear that.
Okay.
So it's kind of like prestigious, I guess. And for both races, it's done over various stages and it's over a long period of time and it's in different parts of the country, or it can be over several countries. So the 1923 Tour de France, the one where he came second, it was only the 17th that had ever been held. It took place the 24th of June to the 22nd of July, and there were 15 stages. And the distance was almost 5,500 kilometers. Yeah, so it's pretty fast. Average speed was almost 25 kilometers an hour. So it's pretty fast. It's faster than we cycle to work.
Yeah, and especially to keep it up for that long.
The elevation is insane as well. I mean, it's up and down and crazy shit.
Yeesh.
Or up and up and up.
Yeah, pretty much.
Interestingly, Henri actually said Ottavio would win the following year. So 1924 rolls around. Everyone's a bit skeptical, but also quite excited. The Italians are super excited to see what happens. And Ottavio wins the first stage and is getting the best time, so gets the magical yellow jersey. As the... Can you call it race? I guess you can call it... Well, as the Tour de France continues, they're traveling all over the country to between the stages. He traveled third class on the train to save money so he could send more money back to his family.
Aww.
And the whole time he would wear the yellow shirt because he was so proud.
Aww.
I just thought, dude,
It's just such an adorable success story.
Sitting in third class with everyone else who's like, trying to travel as cheaply as possible, wearing your yellow shirt, not taking it off because I think it's super sweet.
It really is.
Yeah, he ended up finishing first. And not only was he the first Italian to have ever done it, but he was the first person ever to lead start to finish. So it was a really, really big deal.
Wow.
Then the following year, 1925, he does the same thing again.
Oh.
He leads start to finish. He also travels around third class in the trains. Like, he's a sweetheart. Someone's probably going to write in afterwards and say, actually, he did ABC. And, oh dear, sorry, didn't know that. But yeah, it seems super cute. Then we go to 1926. So it would have been his third Tour de France. At this point, he has a new teammate, Lucien Bussy. I don't know. And they were the clear favourites. Like there was some debate about who was going to win, but between them they were the clear favourites. You had the Italians behind Ottavio and the French behind Lucien, and everyone was super psyched.
Nice.
It was a really long race, but it didn't get bad until the 10th stage. So Ottavio hadn't been leading this one, but he was doing fine. By the time the 10th stage rolls around, there are thunderstorms. There's a really awful quote. Where is it? It was described as apocalyptic because of the cold and the violence of the wind. The 10th stage. It was described as the toughest stage ever in the Tour de France. There were 76 cyclists that started the race, which began at midnight. And Lucien, the teammate, won it. And it took him 17 hours to finish the stage.
Whoa.
Yeah. It was almost half an hour later when the next cyclist came in. And it was an hour after that when 10 cyclists had finished that bit. And at that point, the Tour de France organisers were starting to get pretty worried because these guys have been at it 18 plus hours and it's really, really bad conditions, pretty dangerous. So send some cars out to look for the missing cyclists. Long story short, in the end, 54 cyclists of the 76 did finish, and the remaining 22 were basically no longer in the race. Usually there is a cutoff time and how much longer it can take you to finish the stage against the winner. They did extend it because the conditions were that bad. But still there were 22 that didn't finish. And one of the cyclists who didn't finish was Ottavio. He, all in all, was described as being pretty broken over the whole thing. A lot of people said he was never the same again. He no longer had it in him to train. He was described as weeping like a child at a certain point. It really did affect his health by all accounts. Like he said he was cut down by an illness afterwards. It seemed to be like flu-like symptoms. It was bad all around, and this was July, and by winter he still wasn't in a good way, but he was fine. I think maybe it was more the emotional toll than anything else. And he'd had a lot of criticism for how he'd sort of come in from nowhere, done well, and like, oh, you didn't even try. It's sort of like,
that's horrible.
So it really hurt even more. He announced that he was going to retire. The following year, his teammate ended up winning, so Lucien did win that year. But the following year he'd already made the decision to drop out, and before the end of the season, Lucien had said that Lucien will win. He didn't say that, but you get the idea. He said that he would also win in 1927, but Automoto, the motorcycle manufacturer, they had some really serious financial problems and couldn't afford to send a team for another 2 years. So Lucien actually didn't go back to compete in the Tour de France until 1929, at which point he didn't even finish. So it was kind of... Ottavio didn't finish in 1926, and that was him out forever.
During the apocalypse, basically.
But 1927 was Lucien's first and only win, and he was never going to have that again as well. So it's kind of sad in a way all around. Yeah. So we're going to fast forward a bit. On the 23rd of May 1927, Ottavio's brother, or one of his brothers, Giovanni, was knocked down by a car while cycling in Italy.
Oh.
Yeah. So Ottavio decided to go back to Italy again and spend some time with his family and mourn for his brother. But while he was there, of course, the Giro d'Italia was on. And even though he said he'd retired, he was offered a position on the peloton. You know what that is?
No.
Okay. I had heard the term once before and immediately gone, I don't really get it and don't really have the interest. And in the spirit of the story, had to look it up again and then went, oh, and now I get it. You know, whenever... Okay, so this is all road cycling, but you know whenever you see the cyclists going around indoors on the twirly-whirly...
Oh, like a velodrome.
Yeah. Why am I thinking autodrome? Yeah, but yeah. So whenever you have cyclists doing that, sometimes you don't start a race from being stationary. You start a race from already moving.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. This happens. And when they do that, much like an F1 with a safety car, you have someone else going around that everyone's going after. And apparently it's not okay to just put like an electric rabbit out like you do with dog racing. You actually have to have a dude on a bicycle or a lady on a bicycle who acts as the peloton.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, thank you for the safety car. That just made it really clear.
Yeah. Now, I have a few friends who are cycling enthusiasts, so the phrase was previously explained to me, and the benefit is the peloton sets the pace, and it means that everyone can actually already be going at a pretty hardcore speed, and you should all be more or less the same level of exhaustion, and then they go, and it can either be, it's usually laps, I think that's my understanding, that with, what do you call it? I keep thinking autodrome. Velodrome, thank you, because autodrome is cars, right?
I assume
so, yeah.
I don't think I've seen it for cars myself, to be honest.
Anyway, but they'll do a certain number of laps, and then once the leader crosses the line, then it's sort of whenever everyone else does. But they have a similar thing, apparently, in the Giro d'Italia. They'll have a guy at each stage who leads the pack, and then the race begins, and the peloton disappears.
Okay.
So Ottavio went back after his brother's death on the 23rd of May, and by the 2nd of June he's still in Italy, and he is a peloton at the Giro d'Italia. It was just for one stage, but it did cause many people to speculate, some people to speculate that maybe he was going to participate the following year, or maybe he was going to participate in the Tour de France. So it was kind of, it was pretty surprising, considering he said he wasn't going to be involved in any of this stuff anymore. The following day, the 3rd of June, he had risen at dawn and asked for a hot bath to be ready for him whenever he would return home in 3 hours. He was going out for a cycle. He rode to his friend Alfonso Piscini's house. They were going to go training together. They often did that. And whenever he called to Alfonso's house, Alfonso said that he didn't want to go, and he changed his mind. So Ottavio went on to see another friend called Riccardo Zil, but Riccardo hadn't made plans with him and didn't fancy it, so fine. Ottavio went out on his own. This is where shit gets a bit not so nice.
Mysterious? Oh, gruesome.
Well, let's see how it plays out. At this point, things become a little bit muddied. What we know is a farmer outside a village called Pionis, which is not far from Ottavio's home, found him on the roadside. His body was in a pretty bad state. He was bloodied, and he was lying out next to a vineyard. Didn't know what the deal was then, but it turned out he had a fracture at the base of his skull, a broken clavicle, by many reports some other broken bones, as well as a lot of bruises. And then there's also some mixed reports about what had happened to his bicycle. Some say it was neatly propped up against a fence, others say it was on the roadside or on a verge, but all reports say it showed no signs of going through a crash or any kind of damage. There were also no skid marks to suggest a car had forced him off the road or swerved or anything. And
I'm assuming it wasn't at the foot of a very steep mountain either.
No, mountain roads, but not flat, but relatively consistent.
No broken parachute involved.
No broken parachute. No. Nothing weird. There is more detail, but the official story was that he'd suffered sunstroke and smashed into a fence. Which, yeah. No. So this farmer finds him. Ottavio ended up getting carried to a nearby inn. He was put on a table, and a priest called Don Dante Nigris was called and gave him his last rites. From there, he was taken to a hospital in Germania, if I'm saying that right. And he ended up dying 12 days later. It was the 14th of June. He basically slipped into unconsciousness when he was at that inn, and he never regained consciousness again. So they never got a story from him. So Don Dante Nigris, the priest who gave him his last rites, was pretty convinced and pretty vocal about the death being because of the fascists. So we're going right back to the beginning again.
Yeah, that was a big leap, but
wasn't it? Yeah, it's. I mean, the priest was totally convinced that was the cause. Basically, at that point in Italy, of course, there was a lot of political unrest, and the government was in the middle of a fascist takeover. And Ottavio had always been kind of outspoken about being socialist and also being anti-fascist, and was a pretty big celebrity in Italy at the time. Like he was the Italian cyclist. Like he was the one. And as much as he had the piss taken out of him for being a bit of a country boy, like there was a respect there. And yeah, I think at the time he was the most successful cyclist that Italy had ever seen. He also had his own line of racing bikes, which still exists today.
Really?
Yeah. Like it's a pretty big deal. Yeah, they're super cool. And apparently they're very good bikes. But he was a big deal. And apparently the fascist party were already trying to promote him as Italy's great sporting hero and trying to suggest that he supported them. And there's some speculation that he may have been approached to essentially be a spokesperson for Mussolini and the fascist party, and yay, fascism. And please don't take me yelling that out of context.
That's my ringtone.
And but yeah, the priest was like totally on it for the fascists killed him. The fascists killed him. And yeah, later on, like years and years and years later, there was an Italian immigrant in New York City who was stabbed, and as he was dying, he said that he was hired to murder this guy by the fascists. So
really,
yeah, he said he'd been hired to murder Ottavio by Yeah.
Okay, I was just gonna list
sounds
stuff
like bullshit.
Dismissing all of this, but because from the fascist perspective, it wouldn't make too much sense either, I guess.
We're not done, by the way, but like.
Oh no, I assume. Okay, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself.
No,
again.
but I mean the whole thing is ridiculous. The Italian immigrant guy, the stabbed to death guy, also gave the name of someone who was involved in hiring him, and they tried to track down that name and they couldn't find anyone who existed, and the whole thing was super dodgy. And the priest, Don Dante, he died in 1973, and also reconfirmed, like just totally reiterated the whole thing about the fascists killed him from his deathbed. Like, why would you even bother? Like, talk about something to do with you. Be a bit more self-involved, dude. You're the one dying. Do you want your last words to be about someone else? Well, apparently so.
It is more quotable. And look at us now talking about him today.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the guy probably did have game, as it turns out, whenever it came to celebrity. But there was more speculation about how or who might have killed him. So the farmer also had a deathbed confession. The farmer who found him. Yeah, I know.
Sorry, this is turning into a soap.
I know. Here's a quote from the farmer as he was dying. He said, "I saw a man eating my grapes. He'd pushed through the vines and damaged them. I threw a rock to scare him, but it hit him. I ran to him and realised who it was. I panicked and dragged him to the roadside and left him. God forgive me." Now, there are some serious issues with his confession.
So he's confessing that he basically threw a rock
and killed him, and then tried to cover it up by dragging him to the roadside. So I guess Ottavio propped his bike up on a fence and then went into this guy's vineyard to pick grapes off, and the guy chucked a rock at him. Except, like, dude ended up with a fracture at the base of his skull, as well as the clavicle and other bones. Like, you're talking about more than just one rock being chucked at you. And it would have had to be a really big ass rock. And it will be quite hard to throw it. So unless you're a shot put thrower, you're probably just going to bash someone in the head with it rather than chuck it at them. I mean, think about it. If you have a big rock, imagine having to be accurate with it, and just no. And then there was also some mixed reports about where the farmer was and where the body was, and there was a discrepancy of about 55 kilometers, 35 miles. So that was a bit of an iffy thing. But better yet, this all happened, 3rd of June? Yeah, it all happened 3rd of June. When do grapes ripen? When do they come into season? Late summer. So the grapes would have been fucking grim. Like, and Ottavio knows, like why? Just no. Like,
he's a country boy, of course he knows.
He's a country boy. Country boys know this shit. You don't pick the grapes at this time of year. Pick the brambles. Like, but seriously, why would you? Have you ever had an underripe, like, they're not even grown properly. Anyway, I'm gonna stop ranting about the grapes. But in all seriousness, no one in their right mind would like push their way into a vineyard and start picking nasty ungrown grapes off the vines. It's just not gonna happen. So it really doesn't add up. But yeah, essentially that's my story. My rant is over. I have nothing more exciting to tell you. But
and this is all we know.
Yeah, this is all we know. The official story remains sunstroke.
So what probably happened then? We have the deathbed farmer who was secretly working with the militant anti-fascist movement.
Yes.
The grapes were cover.
Oh,
and he sees someone snooping around, possibly looking for maybe a bicycle pump or something, because he was out biking. But he thought he was looking for the stash of weapons. He tosses or cudgels him or something.
He might have tossed one rock and then,
yeah, or just jumps him, then sees who it is, and like, oh no, this is our hero. He is not even fascist. Shit. Takes the body, thinking he's dead, drags it to like the neighbor's farm.
Yeah, as you do. And
possibly leaves it out in the road where either, I haven't decided if there's another accident along the road after he leaves him while he's still alive and thinks he's dead.
Could be.
Or if the people on the next farm were like hardcore fascist sympathizers, and that's why the priest was so adamant, because the priest was working with the resistance and they wanted to finger them for the murder.
I really like this.
I'm not sure.
But I'm totally on board. I'm totally on board.
I feel I have as much credibility as most witness statements here.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Sorry. I do like that. Like, you actually got me kind of into the bicycling, which I would not think would happen.
Oh, dude, I'm all into the bicycling.
I mean,
now.
It was like a wonderful, like, still humble but rags to riches kind of like success story.
And
like,
the third class thing on the trains, like that absolute, like, it is so not relevant to the story, but it really melted. Actually, most of the cycling isn't relevant to the story.
Well, I mean, yes, building up the character of the hero biker.
Into it. I totally, I'm on board with it. But yeah, I also really like the idea of the priest's secret identity, secret mission. I think that's really cool. And that could also be why he was so insistent on it's the fascists.
Yes.
And he read The Last Rites. If he was like, no, he didn't read The Last Rites. That was the priest. But anyway.
Yes.
No, the farmer.
And the priest said they were the fascists, and he did the Last Rites.
Yeah. No, I want the priest involved somehow. Well, the priest is just paranoid old socialist. What's your socialist perspective on it? Well, socialist Sweden. That I just like yelling that at you.
I think it's safe to say that he should have been skiing instead.
In June.
Yeah, it's the proper socialist mode of transport.
Is it?
No, I don't fucking know.
I like that story.
I was thinking of something nice and Swedish, and Kavi is freaking out.
Oh, she just saw a ghost.
Oh.
Sweetie. Or she sees someone on the roof. Do you think there's someone sitting on the roof? Dude, I'm a bit worried that there's some dude sitting on our roof listening to us record the podcast.
I made a phrase earlier. I heard something there. I couldn't hear it strongly enough to like compare it to our previous little shakes and creaks we've heard. But there was something. I mean,
it's freaking me out. There's someone walking on the roof. I sleep with the door open. Well, I don't anymore, but like I used to sleep with the balcony door open. Oh. Yeah.
But now it's always locked and there are plenty of traps with sharp instruments.
There are. Sometimes I just leave knives on the floor. Mm-hmm. Knives and Lego.
Not to mention all the dogs.
Yeah. And a really vicious cat. I swear I hear that creeping. It's freaking the shit out of me. Let's not talk about it. It'll make it stop. Where's the IMDb spoiler alerts for that shit? Oh.
To be honest, if that was the thing, I would be more freaked out about that than the creaky noises on the roof.
That's a fair point. Yeah. Oh dear. Oh. But yeah, that's my mystery for this week. The only other thing is the guy was like, he lived locally. He was very well known and, people would have recognized him probably enough to recognize him from a distance.
True.
So true. Just FYI, love the theory, probably exactly what happened. But yeah.
Yeah. It was a good one though, like very hard cut on the mystery, but I do like all the, like I said, the soap opera thing of like, and another deathbed confession, and here's another one. Yep.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
All we needed was a twin.
Do you have any more speculation or questions otherwise?
Not really. I do have...
Well...
a mystery.
You do? Tell me your story.
I shall tell you about... Well, I already told you the green bicycle case.
You keep saying this and it's starting to irritate me because I definitely don't know what it is. And it's like, just fucking tell me already.
I know. I guess it's spoilers for the audience. Like I said, it sounded like this was a really well-known thing. But as I dug into it more, I kind of realized at first I didn't think it was that much of a mystery. But the more you learn, we'll see.
Okay.
So I'm not quite as far back as you, well, when we're talking the beginning of the story.
Okay.
But it is almost a century. I'm going to 1919.
That's all right.
So we're
pretty, yeah. Wow. Okay.
Indeed. That was apparently the decades for bike stuff to happen. But I'm talking about Bella Wright. Usually goes by the name Bella. She was 21 years old at this time, and she lived in the village of Stockton, I hope, a short bit outside of Leicester.
I like red Leicester cheese.
That's good.
I'm really crap with geography. It's in England. Wonderful.
That's all we need to know. That's well enough.
I think the only people who need to know the specifics are people who probably already know where it is.
True.
But also, if you want to print a map next time, I'm all up for that.
I probably should, or do a hand-drawn one. I do like that. But Bella, as we mentioned, she was a factory worker. Okay. In this time.
But shit, back then?
Yeah, but you know the turnover from the Great War and all that.
Yeah, we get rid of all the men folk. All of a sudden, ladies get their jobs. They're super psyched. They don't want to go back home and not have jobs. It's like, hey, I know how to make something other than a casserole. It's a bomb, and I've decided I'd like to make more of them.
I love your pitch. We should make a poster with that.
That's not what happened.
There were no bombs here. So she was primarily constructing tires.
But that's fine. That's also important.
Indeed. It was in the rubber factory Bates St. Mary's Mills.
Okay.
Sorry. Lots of apostrophes and...
you did a good job.
A lot of ownership in this place name or factory name.
Yeah, I think they were taking the piss a bit. I think you did the best with what you were given.
Fair enough. So yeah, a factory worker. And she pretty regularly travelled between work and home on her bicycle. Hey. And she was also known, like, as it was following these times, she took a lot of stuff in her own hands, as in, doing errands and doing a lot of stuff out late, and that wasn't as weird.
She's a badass lady.
Yeah, pretty much. And she also had sometimes working late shifts, so her biking around late at night wasn't that weird. So Bella was apparently engaged to a stoker.
As in from Stoke-on-Trent?
Stoke-on-Trent?
The place? What's a stoker?
I was going to ask you if you knew, because I didn't. So apparently a stoker is someone in charge of managing the fire for a steam engine.
Oh, I did know this, because Puff the Magic Dragon had a stoker buddy, didn't he? Didn't he?
I think he did. I'm getting weird, just freeze frame flashbacks. I haven't thought of Puff the Magic Dragon in ages.
Wasn't it all about drugs?
Nah.
That's what they told us when we were teenagers. Puff the Magic Dragon was all about
of course
that
they'd say
hardcore
that.
drug of marijuana.
Oh.
It turns you all... Well, I don't know. Or it was
hallucinating dragons.
Or it was crack cocaine.
I would have assumed it was crack. Yeah. I'm not sure.
Marijuana and crack cocaine back then seemed about as bad as each other. So.
Fair enough. But no, stoker. I do also which is way more apt than the current usage, but they were also commonly referred to as firemen, which makes way more sense, to be honest.
But also, seriously, sorry, that one's taken. It should be
Was it taken?
men. Oh, what do you call it? Snuff men.
Snuffmen,
you
yeah.
know, when you snuff out a candle or something. Yeah, that's what firemen should be called. We'll call firemen snuffmen from now on, and we'll call stokers firemen.
Yes.
Yeah.
For all the steam engines we have left.
Done.
But Bella also had at least one more suitor, and had apparently told her mother that there was an officer who had fallen in love with her, but there weren't any really confirmed details there.
Okay.
However, on the 5th of July in 1919, Bella died.
Okay, this seems very abrupt.
Yes,
You're being intentionally abrupt, and you're looking out over your chin, because you're tilting your chin up towards the sky and gazing over it at me while saying it, and I'm very suspicious.
I had no idea I could do all of these things, but fair enough.
Yeah, you're very... yeah.
I shall retract my chinage. And now I'm just giggling when I'm going to describe how she was found. Sorry, calming.
Oh.
Bella was found at dusk by a farmer. So she was found just lying prone on the ground on a country road next to her bike. Her face was all bloody, and she had slightly deep marks across her cheek and jaw.
Oh, sweetheart.
Yeah, so the farmer, he kind of looked at this and assumed that she had had an accident while biking, crashed into the ground or the rocks nearby, but he rushed to get to Leicester to summon some help.
Yeah, because, probably didn't have a mobile phone in 1920.
I'm going to guess not.
No.
But, so Bella was already dead, and I think he kind of knew, but he did manage to get a doctor, came to investigate.
Good, because it's a bit shitty to go, pretty sure she's dead, probably not going to bother, and then,
yeah. Doctor came, had the exact same conclusion. No, she accidental fall off her bicycle. So her body was sent off. They got some more people to help as well, including a police constable. Yeah. And they sent off the body to be temporarily stored in a nearby empty house shed thing. Mm-hmm. And but the following morning, the constable I mentioned, Alfred Hall, he came back and he had more proper investigation on the scene where they found her.
Yeah.
And he found some weird things. There was a cattle gate not too far off, but a bit off from where they found her. On this cattle gate, the constable Hall, he found a blood smear on it.
Oh, and it's not from someone coming off their bike and heading into it and then sliding down it?
It was a bit too far away from where her body was found for that to be any kind of natural thing.
Okay.
But he did still spot it. So he took a closer look in general at the scene where they found her, dug around, and he found a bullet embedded in the ground.
Ooh.
So after this, he went directly to Bella's remains to inspect them.
Yeah.
And he basically just on his own, I mean, crime scene integrity wasn't as big a thing back then, I suppose. But he kind of started washing off the blood from her face.
Yeah.
Because there had been, it wasn't like ridiculously a lot, but there was, caked blood, and you know how that goes.
I can imagine coming face first off a bicycle. It's not going to be tight. Like, I know what it looks like if you fall and like scuff up your knee. It's like, doesn't take a lot to get mucky and bloody and crusty and horrible.
So that's why everyone assumed that. But as the constable started washing off, he found a bullet wound right below her left eye.
Whoa. It's a pretty big one to miss.
Yeah, especially for the doctor, I'd say.
Well, I mean, he confirmed she's dead. That's half his job done, right?
I suppose.
Definitely dead. Cause of death is wrong. Oopsies. Oh dear.
But yes, after this, they actually did a full autopsy and concluded that Bella had been shot at close range.
Are they sure this time?
Pretty sure.
Did they clean all the stuff away? Like, I mean, maybe there's a knife still stuck in the other side of her face or something. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I'm laughing, but it's a very fair point. But no, nothing else. They found an exit wound at the back of her head, though. Oh, so
how do you met? Oh, whatever. Great hair.
Hair, yeah. But then, now was very sure that it had not been an accident. But the officer also went back, of course, and tried to find more clues, but there was nothing else on the scene.
Okay.
So the police started trying to retrace her steps for the Saturday evening when she was last alive.
Or her wheels. Hey.
Steps, wheels, pedalings. I'm not sure.
I don't know. You're looking at the tire mark. Well, anyway, go on. It's getting too complicated.
Yeah. But so, I mean, she had been going about during the day. So as they managed to piece it together, towards the afternoon, Bella had been running a lot of errands. And after she had handed off some letters to the post office, she was going to her uncle's house in Galby, which was about 4 miles from her own home.
Okay, so fine by bicycle.
Yeah. Especially in the relative fineness of back in those days, I suppose.
Yeah.
So the uncle, the police, of course, interviewed, and he told the police that she had come into town in the company of a stranger who also appeared to have stuck around and tried to join up with her after. So she spent about an hour at the uncle's.
Okay.
And the stranger appeared to try to rejoin her afterwards.
Okay.
So her relatives were initially worried that she might be stalked or something was afoot.
Yeah.
But Bella was very dismissive of the whole thing, and some witness accounts seem to indicate that they appear to be way friendlier than would have been normal for someone who just met or ran into during the day or so.
So there was something going on, people think.
Very possibly. So we have a second-hand quote. So the uncle said that Bella had said that, as a quote, "Oh, him. I don't really know him at all. He's been riding alongside me for a few miles, but he isn't bothering me at all. He's just chatting about the weather."
Oh, no.
And she rounded off by saying, "Oh, if it gets boring, I'll try to give him the slip."
This is the classic of dudes talking to you on public transport or wherever. It's got headphones in, reading a book. I'm switched off. Do not speak to me. I have no interest. But also you end up in that, I don't want to be rude.
Yeah.
Just be rude. Just be rude.
In those situations, you should be rude.
But
yes.
Seriously, do you know how many times I've been called a bitch for doing that? It's unbelievable.
It's fucking horrible.
Yes. Scumbags.
Sorry, needed a drink for scumbags. But yeah, so that was how she presented it. But as I said, witnesses said they looked a lot friendlier, and the uncle did hear as she was leaving, the guy, like, he wasn't hiding. He was just kind of creepily staying around outside of the uncle's premises.
It's not sounding great.
No, it's not sounding great. But like when she left, he kind of joined up with her, and the uncle heard him address her in a very personal way as.
So they must have known each other in some way, and maybe she was.
It did not look like it was someone who she just had kind of went next to and chatted about the weather with.
Maybe you just don't want your uncle to know anything about the dude you're banging, especially not in 1919.
Yeah, when you're engaged as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's kind of how it looked as they were leaving.
Okay.
So they had like several independent witnesses, apart from the uncle, had seen the pair Bella and this man leaving the village together. The man was described as being between 35 and 40, wearing a grey suit, grey cap, black boots, and having a very distinctive pea green bicycle. Dun dun dun.
The green bicycle.
Yes. So, after learning about this, the Leicestershire police sent out several appeals urging this man to come forward and assist them with their inquiries.
Yeah.
But yeah, they reached out, but they didn't get any response at all. So the police tried to like go through. They were really focused on this bike man, of course.
Yeah.
So they tried to go through any place where bicycles were stored, sold, bought, repaired, traded, anything.
Yeah.
But they couldn't find any leads pertaining to this green bicycle.
Okay.
There was one bicycle repairman who had serviced a bike that kind of fit that description, but there were no, like, this was just a really brief cash transaction. Nothing could really be traced, or not that many details found.
Why would you remember? It's like, even if I remember the bike, I'm not going to remember anything about the dude or the issue or about...
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So they were kind of stuck. But in February 1920, the bike was found.
What? Okay.
There was a coal barge that was being drawn along the River Soar, which is quite an impressive name for a river.
We're back to the firemen, the stokers.
Oh yeah, connection, nice. Yeah. I didn't even think of that. But no, there was it was carrying coal, but it was really, we're talking old school. It was just a barge that was floating, and there was a dude with probably a horse or something that drew it with a rope.
Oh, okay.
And this tow rope got caught on the frame of the green bicycle, which then was lifted up to the surface.
No.
So the police was informed, and they made the decision to just drag the entire canal. And
interesting decision.
They found more parts of the bike.
Whoa.
All separated. So the serial numbers had been filed off on 2 places on the bike, but they did manage to reconstruct enough that they traced the bike to its point of sale.
No way.
And it was revealed that, hey, this is 1920, which is quite impressive.
I'm massively impressed.
I would not have thought that they even had serial numbers on the bikes back then.
Yeah, I didn't want to sound totally ignorant, but I was kind of going, I mean, it's not a gun, it's a bicycle.
Yeah, but apparently.
Yeah.
So they did trace this, and there was some proper record keeping there. So they found out that this bike had been purchased 9 years ago, or 9 years prior.
What?
By one Ronald Vivian Light.
I'm so amazed by this. So they actually managed to track it down, and then these guys happen to have the records from 9 years. Anyway.
I mean, I keep my receipts longer than that, but yes, it is impressive.
It's massively impressive. Also,
yes.
I'm impressed by you. If there's any warranty issues, then good. Yeah, you're sorted.
I do keep them. So after this revelation, the police brought in, I think they actually arrested Light on the 4th of March when they found him in Cheltenham, where he was working as a maths teacher.
Okay.
And he was almost immediately charged with the murder of Bella Wright.
Because he had a bicycle that may or may not have been the green bicycle nearby.
Pretty much.
I mean, that seems like a bit of a stretch.
These were simpler times, though.
Yeah. I mean, cool and everything. happy for the police, but yeah.
But we have more. So when he was brought in, Light just categorically denied everything.
As you would.
And he stated like he had not been anywhere near Galway on the date of the murder, the previous year as well. He had never met Bella. He had never owned a green bicycle like the one everyone was fussing about.
I mean, I was already suspicious when I wasn't there near that place on that date. Mm-hmm. Like really a year ago. I don't remember what I did 2 weeks ago, but fine. And also never owned the bike. What about the receipt? Anyway.
Which is what the police said. So after they told him that they had proof showing that he actually bought the bike, he immediately changed the story and said like, oh no, I sold that bike years ago to someone and I can't remember their name.
Of course.
Yeah. But you do remember I said like the only like smidgen of a clue they had was the bike repairman.
Yeah.
He positively identified Light in a witness parade.
No.
As the man who came in.
It was simpler back then.
Mm-hmm. For repairs of a green bicycle on the day of Bella's murder. Yep.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm. So with this, they could push more. They interviewed the household staff at Light's mother's home, where apparently lived. And they told the police that on the night of the murder, he had apparently come home very late. Also, not entirely sure how they remember that, unless they actually suspected him when the news broke. But he had come home very late, claimed that his bike had broken down, and he had to push it home, and apparently had also destroyed and or sold all the clothing he had worn that day.
This is just dodgy, isn't it? That's why you remember. Because the guy came home at midnight with a whole bunch of excuses and no trousers on.
Yeah, or burned the clothes afterwards. That's true. So a bit later in March, police were not giving up on this, and they actually were still working on dredging the canals, and they managed to find the holster for an army pistol in the canal. Not in the same place, but same canal. They couldn't find an actual weapon, but there were bullets in the holster, which matched the caliber of the murder weapon.
I mean, it's really not sounding great.
It's all kind of getting pieced together. So, like, presented with all of this, Light claimed that he had chosen not to come forward with a police request, and all the both police and media appeals, partially to avoid worrying his ailing mother, or mostly because of that.
Yeah, we like the mum.
Yeah, and he also, after a while, admitted that in October 1990, he had taken his bicycle, which he had for some reason for a long period stored in the attic. He took his bicycle, filed off the serial numbers, dismantled it, and tossed it over the edge of the Upperton Road Bridge in Leicester, and just like throwing in each part of the bike separately into the River Soar.
What are the chances that barge would pull off a piece anyway?
They're not that big, and I mean it took a while, so there might have been a lot of traffic there, but it's a good thing and a lucky thing.
Yeah.
So 1920 in June, the 8th of June, the trial started.
Okay.
And Ronald pled not guilty for the murder of Bella Wright. So Light's basic strategy was basically immediately during the trial admitted to everything that had been proven with evidence or testimonies.
I mean, that's probably the best thing you can do.
Mm-hmm. And also it included stuff that would technically be felonies, like lying to the police when he was arrested, disposing his bicycle, and even the holster and bullets. He claimed that, no, they were mine, and I tossed them, and I was with Bella the night of her death.
Whoa.
But he pled not guilty and said that he did not murder her because he did not admit to possessing any kind of army revolver and not admitting to killing Bella. The explanation he gave for most of his action was that he just panicked and he assumed that the general thoughts of, the man on the green bike must have been the killer. He thought that he would basically be lynched or wrongfully convicted if he had come forward at any time.
Okay.
And the defense was doing pretty good work. They even got like an expert witness in that claimed that the bullet that killed Bella could have come from either revolver or rifle. Everyone assumed a revolver, and it could also have been like either a stray shot or a ricochet from a larger distance than what they initially thought.
So it could mean, yeah.
That's what I thought. So, like, in the end, the court could not get past the level of reasonable doubt.
And that's also kind of fair enough.
I do kind of agree, even though it's...
I mean, it's dodgy as anything. But.
Yeah. But yeah, so after like hours and hours of deliberations, the verdict was set as not guilty.
Yeah.
And Light basically lived out the rest of his life as a free man. He married a widow called Lillian Lester and lived with her, helped raise her stepdaughter until he lived on until he died in 1975, aged 89 years.
1975?
Mm-hmm.
He lived a long life.
Yep. And like, I'm not sure about the widow, but for instance, the stepdaughter never knew about this entire story at all until after his death.
That would be a weird one to find out.
Kind of.
I would be dying to ask. Like, you would, yeah, I'd be like...
So, yeah, a lot of this looks obvious, but the reasonable doubt. And
there is for sure reasonable doubt, and it doesn't explain motive at all. Do you have any ideas?
So the main motive that people were assuming was that he was courting her, he was getting way too pushy, and she kind of spurned his advances or something like that, and he got angry and there was a fight and he shot her or something like that. That was the most common thought, at least, well, mostly back in the day. If you're thinking straightforward, he did it.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of other theories as well. So one of the ones that came through the ballistics expert, who people weren't too happy or convinced about that either, but apparently it was enough for the court. You remember the blood smear on the Kettlegate thing?
Yeah.
Apparently there were also some other things, like they found some crows lying dead nearby, or a crow lying dead nearby.
Okay.
And one of the speculations that are still one of the stronger theories is like, no, but if he didn't do it, it might have been like kids out, shooting crows.
Would they use
in
a
the
real
field.
gun for that? You'd use a pellet gun,
1919.
right?
I don't know.
I don't know either. To me, it seems a stretch, but...
But yes, like, boys shooting crows was one theory that has kind of gone through to this day. There is, however, one thing, and I was digging with this, I could not find, like, any kind of proper confirmation. Of course, that would have gotten up in the press, because like this case is still brought up as we're getting closer to like the century anniversary, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I think the last news coverage of this was maybe like 2 years ago or so.
Which is still quite surprising.
Yeah, but it is apparently a big mystery that's gotten stuck. But several sources do mention that basically there were rumors that there was a kind of a signed confession, or more in the lines of a note written by the Leicester Superintendent of Police that claimed that after the trial he had spoken to Light had confessed to accidentally killing Bella. As in, yeah, he had a gun and he was either going to show it or he fumbled or something and it went off by mistake. And supposedly he either made the note himself, as in the superintendent of police did, or he did like one in conjunction with Light and got it signed as a confession, and then supposedly locked it away, and then it never reappeared.
I mean, you'd think with all the work they went to find out who owned the pea green bicycle, if they had a confession, they'd whap it out.
One would think so, yeah. And I don't know, but apparently this is definitely the most popular theory going around now, and I can't quite see it, but I can see the scenario. I just can't see the whole admitting it right after the trial and then doing the written note and the police locking it up.
Yeah.
That's a bit weird to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my mystery with way too much evidence. And
I really liked it. And I'm curious, and I want to Google it some more. And I hope it's solved.
It's apparently a classic. You hope it's solved?
Yeah, I hope it's solved someday.
Oh, someday.
Yeah, no,
who knows? There was actually, I think one of the most recent ones did mention that a lot of, I guess, historians by now were like pushing that, no, we need to dig even deeper in the canals, because if we actually find the gun in there, we'll know more about what happened.
But you won't, will you?
I mean, it's 100 years. You can, yeah.
Yeah. No.
I mean, I guess if they could find a gun and actually link it to the time and place that it would have been dumped there, then okay, yes, that would point to that Light actually had the gun and he was getting away because he didn't. But
I think if they find the gun and it turned out to be linked to him, what's it going to do? Tell us almost the exact same stuff we have right now. It's not really going to matter.
Pretty much, but
I think you'd need something more compelling.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure that he was full of bullshit when it came to the like, oh yeah, it was my bike, I did this, I had the holster, I had the ammunition, never seen a gun. Why are you talking about a gun? Not my gun. That is a bit,
yeah. No, I'd need something a lot more compelling,
kind of
like a witness, or
or a signed confession.
Yeah, I don't know that a signed confession would do it for me. I'm so skeptical of confessions.
Yeah, true. But this is actually one case where I would find it easier to admit it, because to accept it, because if it was a signed confession of someone who was already like acquitted and went free.
Yeah.
Then like, no, it's not like they could have taken him in and beaten it out of him afterwards or coerced him. There would be no reason except for wanting to tell the truth, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
Well, maybe I'm naive.
No,
I don't know.
I like that one.
What do you think, dear listeners?
Yeah.
Am I naive?
Tell us.
Do we need a gun?
Yeah, what would convince you? On that note, I think we should say goodbye.
I think so. It's Friday. It's time to get out and shake various things, possibly cocktail shakers, or who knows?
Yeah, you go do that. I'm going to stay on the sofa with the cat and really
I do envy you.
Enjoy myself.
I need a shaky cat.
Oh, a shaky cat. Something to shake. Oh dear.
No, someone to join me in shaking adventures.
Oh,
we can have like a little conga with shaky. I have no idea what I'm doing. Ignore me.
I know. I enjoyed that. That was wonderful. But yeah, it is the weekend. Mm-hmm. We hope it's a good one for you. Mm-hmm. It's been a good Friday.
It has been a good Friday. And we'll see you again on Tuesday.
Yeah. In the meantime, hit us up on Twitter at Crime by the Bar.
Mm-hmm. Or send an email to crimebythebar@gmail.com.
And you can get some fun extras at crimebythebar.com. Perfect. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Have a great weekend and bye.
Bye. You know what? I'm so used to heteronormative, monogonormative people.
Monogonormative? I've never heard it, but I like it.
Monogonormative. It's like those people who think it's normal to be monogamous. Fucking squares. Fucking everyone has to fit in their little tiny shoebox. Shoebox monogamous? I don't know. But yeah.
Fucking boxers.
Fucking boxers. Nice.